Before we continue with today's episode, I just wanted to give a huge thank you to all the fans and supporters out there of my podcast. The first episode of the Newtype Podcast has officially hit over 100 views. I never thought anybody would actually want to listen to this podcast, so thank you for proving me wrong. And now, one more announcement. My friends over at GundamFlexing.com are having a sale on a high-grade Psychozaku with a stand, $27.63. Go out and support them. We all know what happened to Hobby Wave. It is very unfortunate, so that's why we must continue to support our local Gundam vendors. Now, continuing on to this episode. Hello, and welcome to the Newtype Podcast. Whether it's your first time joining us or you've been with us, my name is Dark22, aka Jacob. You can call me whatever you like. And today, with my guest, we will be discussing all things about the Thunderbolt finale. And so, let us introduce our guest.
Hi, I'm Mr. Penguin. I'm from the Gunpla Discord and Gunpla subreddit.
Awesome. And so, moving on now, before we jump into all the specifics and the details of, Thunderbolt Season 2, I'd like to ask all the guests that step on this podcast a couple of questions. So, whenever you're ready for them, just let me know.
Oh, go for it.
Alright, so, Mr. Penguin, when did you get started with Gundam and Gunpla?
Gundam was around the year 2000, 2001, around the same time everyone got it into Wing. Gunpla was around 2 years ago. I got the RG Ashtray Red Frame as a Christmas gift, and I just got addicted after that.
Nice. I started around 2 years ago myself because I started getting into Gundam again, and I saw these kits, and so I was never really like a hobby guy before starting Gunpla, but after building my first kit, which was a Glaze custom high grade from IBO, I was like, hey, this is fun. I wonder if they have all my favorite mobile suits, and so I found a local hobby store, and the rest is history. But as for me and Gundam, our little relationship, it started with me growing up watching G. And then I didn't know that was Gundam until, way later. And then when I got back into anime, my friend was like, oh, hey, you should watch Gundam. I was like, oh, yeah, mobile suits and mechs are cool, but where do I start? He's like, oh, you should just watch Wing. And so I watched Wing, and then after that I saw, like, F91, X, and then so forth, until I came to this Discord.
Alright.
And speaking of Gundam, what is your favorite Gundam series and your favorite Gundam suit?
Yeah, this one I actually, after reading the notes, I actually thought about it for well, I'm still thinking about it. It's something I've been thinking about for a while now because it's one of those series where I kind of like the series as a whole, and it's kind of hard for me to pick one, kind of like, choose your favorite son. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's how it is with me. Whenever somebody, asks or poses the question to me, I kind of hold off because, I plan, because I haven't seen all of Gundam, so my excuse is, well, I haven't seen all of Gundam, so I'll be able to tell which one's my favorite after I've seen, all the series. I mean, because there hasn't been a, Gundam series that I've, actually disliked. Yeah, there's parts of many that I didn't dislike. Igloo. But for the most part, all of them have been pretty enjoyable, which is something I haven't seen in a while. But at least you can have an answer for your favorite mobile suit.
Yes. Favorite mobile suit is, the Unicorn, easily.
Awesome. I actually got Master Grade Unicorn in the mail today from Herbie. The package is huge. That thing is like that thing is absolutely massive. I was not expecting that in the mail. So I am excited to build that, and eventually when I do get there, to watch the series. But as far as my favorite mobile suit goes, it's something I've been thinking about a lot. But I always go back to Death Scythe because Gundam Wing was my first series, and then just seeing a mobile suit, with a scythe and all of that, the death theme of it was so cool, and the fact that he can turn invisible just blew my mind. And so I'd say for now he's my favorite.
All right, yeah. That's the thing about Gundam Wing is that every time you ask someone, it's usually either going to be the Wing, the Shenlong, the Heavy Arms is really popular, or the Death Scythe.
Yeah, for me it was a tie between Death Scythe or Epion, but I don't know. I'm sure, down the road my opinion will change, but until then. So, you saw it, I saw it. Now let's discuss Thunderbolt Season 2 finale. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts as someone who read the manga, complicated. It's, how do I put this? It's like, I kind of have to separate, like, you can't put everything in the manga in the anime, but at the same time, a lot of the things I liked about the manga doesn't make it into the anime. But then I have to realize that the anime is kind of made for manga readers, so it'd be like, here's the animated part of the cool parts. But then you have to go back and it's like, yeah, but the narrative's missing, so...
Yeah, I understand completely. As somebody, who reads manga, myself, I personally have been holding off on reading any Gundam manga until I finish all the animated series, because I know that there'll be that disconnect to the manga and anime, and so I don't want it to subtract from any, experience I have with it. And so, yeah, but, the only manga I've read was Volume 1 of Origins because, of all that. But for me, the finale was really interesting. I did laugh at a couple of parts, especially when, with the High Priest humming and all that, just this music they played during those scenes just seemed so out of place. It just made me laugh. And then, when Roll is kicking all those core boosters, and then he jumps onto that one. He's like, "Hey, we don't want you. We resist solicitation." That was actually a pretty funny joke, and so I got a good laugh from that. But as far as finales go, that was really good. I wasn't surprised at the end of it, because I knew that they couldn't finish all of Thunderbolt in just a 22 minute episode. So season 3, if they decide to do a season 3 or a movie, who knows? But it's definitely something to be looking forward to. That end reveal of the Newtype and that awesome Zaku in the background, that makes me excited to see more.
Yeah. The interesting thing about the whole humming thing, and it's probably my biggest gripe with season 2 in general, is that in the manga, they make all that stuff a lot creepier than it ends up being in the anime. In the anime, they kind of make it a bit too, like, magical, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I definitely know what you're talking about. It was just, I don't know, it was really interesting. The monks, yeah, the monks were really odd. I mean, you have a lady that's bald, and so that was pretty funny to see. I just had a hard time deciphering or just dissecting the monks and all those other people. It was just it was very Thunderbolt like.
Yeah, I can actually help you with that one. Usually with Gundam is that you can usually draw parallels with real life stuff. In this case, you're kind of supposed to draw like the monks as kind of like ISIS or similar terrorist organizations where it's just a ton of brainwashing to the point where they don't even care if they live or die, if it's about the cause.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Cause I could definitely see the parallel there because yeah, they definitely had no regard for their, I guess, personal welfare. And they always spouted about, hey, we're going to meet the high priest. We're going to be elevated or revered. So it's definitely, I can definitely see the parallel there. But I like the way they, I guess, wrapped up the message in that. So, what did you think on? So, what do you think is going to go from there? Pretty much.
Well, the manga I've read kind of cuts off exactly at the same point season 2 does, so I don't quite know where it's going to go, but from what I've seen from the manga and the anime, they've both hinted at this, even though I think it will piss off a lot of people, is that it will come down to Io and Daryl actually working together to fight the Psychozaku Mark II, which you can actually find pictures of. It looks pretty cool in my opinion.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was also thinking about, because I would be lying if I said I didn't expect those two to go at it, but like then you realize that none of them have their signature suits. So what I definitely anticipate some sort of, hey, I know what enemy is and all, but forget this, let's fight this guy instead. So I could definitely see that, and of course Claudia is going to be a major subplot. How Vol's going to try to bring her back, and then all that drama acts and. So it'll be very interesting to see how they decide to pan it out. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, one thing I can praise is that they kept from the manga, which I'm quite happy, is that they kind of showed that both Daryl and Io have a common reason to actually work together in the first place, and they're both very similar, which is the romantic attachment to the person they love is attached to. They need to deal with this problem.
I agree. Yeah. I definitely liked how they handled that. So, speaking of Fleming and Daryl, which of the two do you like or, identify more with?
Honestly, I can't. Here's the thing. In season 1, I like Daryl more because he has more development. In season 2, I like Io more because he has more development. They're both really good characters, and that's really one of Thunderbolt's strong points, is that Io and Daryl are very well fleshed out. They're not just, oh, I have this goal and it's this simple. Their thought process is very complex, and even Io is like, between S1 and S2, you can tell he's thinking more in S2 about what he's actually doing instead of just going with the flow half the time.
I definitely agree. Season 1 was, Daryl going from just kind of like a, soldier with a lot of potential, and then, boom, the lady he loves, dies. And then he also goes through this extraordinary change. He pretty much sacrifices, his arms and legs, to pilot this new mobile suit. So he's putting the cause of, June or, his ideals ahead of himself. Meanwhile, Vol's kind of like, hey, you got a tissue? And he's like drumming out on his mobile suit, And then season 2, you see how Vol is kind of more hardened, more mature. There's definitely more thoughts in his accents. And I definitely agree with that. These are definitely more human-like characters. They're not flat characters, they're dynamic. And so that was really cool to see how they added, a breath of life into both of them. So I really liked it. If I had to choose which one I identified more with, I couldn't say, because there's parts of each that I can take away from. And so I think that was the purpose as well, because we can see ourselves in a bit of, both.
Yeah, I agree. That's why if I had to choose either one, it's like I can't personally I can't identify with either, but I can definitely understand their actions, which is, in my opinion, far more important.
I agree. And so, eventually, it all boils down into this. Which Gundam from Thunderbolt do you like more? Psycho Zaku, full armor, or the Atlas?
right, this one is complicated because when I look at all of them, there's like the part of me is like, okay, do I judge them purely off their designs and stuff like that, or do I judge them off the gunplay? Because if I have to judge them off design, I'm a massive Zaku fanboy, so I'm gonna go for the Zaku. But if I had to ask which one of these looks the most interesting to me, or which like I think about more when I think Thunderbolt, it would probably be none of them actually. It would be mostly the grunt suits of Thunderbolt.
Yeah. So I don't know. My I guess criteria is pretty interesting because if it's a cool mobile suit, that's already a win in my book. But I haven't done any of the gunpla for these guys. There's one Gundam vendor I know has an HG Sakuzaku for like $28, and so I was like thinking about getting it because the MG version of both full armor and Sakuzaku are expensive, and so I was like, I should make these, but at the same time, I already have a huge backlog. So instead, what I base my criteria off is their design, and then their mechanics in the show. Like, what are they designed to do? How do they play out in battle? Especially when Psychozaku and full armor went at it, you have an immovable object and an unstoppable force going at each other. Psychozaku's all about speed and mobility, and the full armor's heavy on defense, not as fast but still pretty fast, and so it's kind of like a cross of titans. So I'm kind of torn between the two. Atlas, I didn't like so much. I mean, yeah, it was cool and all, but it wasn't that unique in my opinion. It didn't really stand out. So, oh, cool, he has a little hoverboard, but that's about it. You know?
Yeah, another thing that, just to add before, because it's been something I really, really liked in the chapter, and I like that it's been emphasized here, is that the best fighting moment with EO isn't when he's in his Atlas. It's in this episode when he's in a custom GM Cae, and he's just wrecking face in a GM Cae.
Yeah, and then how Daryl's in the Ak guy, and he's just blowing stuff away, and so that was also pretty cool. Let me tell you, Thunderbolt definitely gave me a new sense of appreciation and awe for the Ak guys, because previously it's like, these are little minion mobile suits, cute looking fellas, underwater assassins pretty much. And then there's that one scene in where they accidentally start a fire, and so they're putting it out, which is pretty funny. But then you see how they're moving on to the party table, and then their arms detach and transform to all these kind of weapons, and so that kind of blew me away. I was not expecting that kind of design or surprise from those Ak guys. So if I did have to say, my favorite grunt suit of Thunderbolt was definitely the Ak guys.
Yeah, that's something you would never hear anyone say. Wow, they made the Ak guys cool, really?
And I was totally unexpected, because you always expect, I mean, not so you expect, but I feel like a lot of more the grunt suits are kind of overlooked. For more there just for hey, it's just as a distinction. But I like how they kind of put that little level of detail into them. So it'll be curious to see moving forward with any new series, or even in season 3, if they keep that up.
Yeah, I can tell you that as someone who read the manga, even all of the Ak guy stuff came as a surprise, because one thing mangas can't really do that well is kind of animating mechanical detail. As obvious as that sounds, it kind of sometimes becomes confusing and difficult to see.
Yeah, I know the feeling, because they'll make the little lines to try to express a change in motion, but then they have to change make panels just for that movement, so it does get kind of confusing, in the sense of, whoa, what am I supposed to be looking at? Or what is he doing with his arm? So I feel the anime did do a good service of describing and showing us the transformation. So I definitely do need to get on that manga though, because I heard it is decent, and so I do like source material as well.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of side story stuff that and context for like EO and stuff like that that they didn't go through in the anime, which I really suggest you see because it adds context.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm all about. Context, knowing as much as I can about it. So I'll definitely look into that.
Yeah,
Do you think they're going take those side stories and developments and make a little like mini series or like kind of like a midway series for everybody to kind of like bridge hey, I know season 2's done, but meanwhile while we're making season 3, see kind of like the background or the in between of 1 and 2 and see how Fleming develops more into who he is season 2.
it's actually funny you say that because there's actually a separate side story of itself that has nothing to do with Thunderbolt in the Thunderbolt manga that would probably fit in like a 8 to 10 minute OVA, and it's just its own story. It's actually pretty good. It's about like this desert. Well, it's referred to as a desert rat, which is basically just a kid or something who collects scrap fields from like the desert, and he just discovers this gem that fell from space, and he's trying to take it, and someone else is trying to steal it from him, and it's just like this mini story. It's actually pretty good. One thing that I don't think they can fit is that I'm not sure if you noticed, but they didn't explain how Claudia lived.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I was kind of like, hey man, like I'm kind of dying to know because what we saw from season 1, she got shot, and then the airlock opened up. So for all we know, why didn't just some random debris or ricochet this kill her? So I really hope they kind of go into that and say, all right guys, this is what happened. So maybe when Fleming and Claudia finally reunite, she'll tell the story. But until then, it's all speculation.
Well, it's not all speculation that's in the manga.
Ah, okay. So another reason for me to read the manga.
Yeah, basically, they kind of showed us a little bit in the anime, but it's expanded more. Well, I guess it's more accurate to say it's shrunken down in the anime. Is that you kind of see these religious guys doing this funeral service. Well, they're also picking up survivors and bodies and stuff like that. Claudia just got lucky and got picked up by one of these guys, but lucky is questionable considering who picked her up and what happened afterwards.
Yeah, definitely. And so, uh, did you see for season 1? Did you see the series or did you see December Sky?
Okay, so I watched the series as it went, and then after that, I read the manga, and then I watched December Sky.
Okay, because when I discovered it, it was honestly all done with the exception of today's or yesterday's finale, and so I asked everybody in the Discord like, hey, do I watch the series or December Sky? And they're like, oh, watch December Sky because it adds stuff at the end, and also because it was shorter to watch. But do you think season 2 is going to get a December Sky treatment where we're going to see kind of like a slightly condensed version of season 2, but with extra stuff put on at the end, or no?
Well, first of all, I'm pretty sure December Sky is just all OVAs woven together with an extra added. I don't think they take out anything. As for a movie variant, probably since they've done that with basically all the ones that they could. The exceptions are like things like 0083 and Unicorn, where it just would be too long to cut into a movie.
Yeah, I agree. And then, I already had my fair share of 83, so I wouldn't go back and watch a December Sky treatment of 83. Boy, what a headache that series was at some parts. But that's for another topic on another podcast episode.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Penguin, where can our audience find more of you?
I'm usually on a Discord talking complete and other nonsense. I
Sorry, you go ahead.
I also post on Gunpla and Gundam occasionally whenever a new Gundam show comes around. We're still waiting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we ever do and where everyone placed that on the timeline. Because I think, UC has been pretty much, used up for the most part. I'm sure you can, fit stuff in there. But for the most part, it's pretty much established.
Well, are some very popular UC series that have been done, like Crossbone.
Yeah, Crossbone, and then the rest of F91 would be fantastic.
Well, more like the entirety of F91.
Yeah. Because apparently I never knew this, because when I saw the movie, I thought, the movie was just a movie, that's it. But I never knew it was originally meant to be an actual series. And so apparently the movie of F91 is supposed to encompass the first 13 episodes or so. Or, a small chunk of what this actual series was going to be.
Well, that was the intended, but it ended up being the entire story of F91. The problem is that they only had up to episode 13 made. So there's a reason why the quality and the pacing at the start of the movie is significantly better than the rest.
That makes sense. Yeah, I definitely noticed that. So I'm glad to finally get some closure on that part.
Yeah, the issue is that every time it's been brought up, Tomino is like, I'm not doing Crossbone if they don't let me do F91 first again.
Well, the man has, contributed a lot to this world, so I feel like, he should be allowed to. The man should do what he feels like he needs to do in terms of Gundam and his creative freedom.
Yeah, unfortunately, Bandai is still like, oh, we don't care. Just make more kids-friendly stuff, please.
Yeah. So, well, if you have anything else to add, then you can just say it now.
No, I'm good.
Alright. Well, before I go, a good friend of ours at Gundam Flexing, as I mentioned earlier, does have a high-grade Saikozaku kit with a stand available. It is on sale from 28. This is not a sponsored thing, but I wish it was. I'm just helping some friends out, with some gunplay, especially with the closing of Hobby Wave. Rest in peace. You can find that link in the description, and if you've missed out on any of our episodes in the past, you can just click on my channel. Also, please follow the podcast on Twitter, and I just made a Facebook group / Facebook page for the podcast, so you can have it checked out in the About page of the channel, or check the link in the description, as well as the Discord server. Well, thank you for stopping by and listening to us talk about Thunderbolt. I've been your host, Jacob, aka Darksigner22, with Mr. Penguin, and I wish you all a very good day. Until then, this is me signing off. Iつかは神様に見られ今夜も懺悔が聞こえないそれがブルーかれても抱き足りねえし胸割られても傷つきたいお前がいつも
blues顔切られても口つけてし欺かれても狂わせたいこの俺もいつかは神様に見られ今夜も懺悔が聞こえない俺のブルー無茶びない